Hi, Scott Orlin with Cinema-Magazin. Okay, fans of Dead to Me, you're in for a treat. We have not only the head writer, but the creator of the show, Liz Feldman. Liz, congratulations. I'm curious, was there anything in your background that kind of directed you toward this? Because when I'm asking specifically because there's so much traffic stuff. There's an accident that kind of causes the trajectory of the story. In season 2, we have a lot about the stop sign, and she's trying to direct traffic there. Was that something that kind of like fueled everything?
I think subconsciously, yes. Though it's not necessarily like I sat down and was like, what am I going to do in order to express my deep history with nearly getting into car accidents? I think, first of all, I love cars. I've always loved cars. I had like a remote control car collection as a young girl, which is, not probably typical. I've also always loved classic cars. So I knew that a car motif was something I wanted to work with. And I think, I had an experience when I first moved to Los Angeles and really didn't know how to drive, where I almost hit someone. And it has haunted me ever since. I came pretty close. And I didn't see them, and it was nighttime, and I didn't hit them. But that fear definitely, there was that seed planted. And this very strange thing started happening, which is that I kept getting into car accidents after that. Not hitting anybody, but, either rear-ending somebody or nearly, and I mean, it was something crazy. Like the first couple of years I lived in LA, I was in like 5 accidents or something. And I sat down and I talked about it with my mom, and I was like, I don't know, like maybe I'm not meant to drive. And she's like, this is weird, but I'm going to tell you a story. It turns out that when my mother was pregnant with me, they got into a really bad car accident. And this was before the time of like seatbelt mandatory, have to wear them. And my mother was worried that she had perhaps lost me. And my mom is a very sort of woo-woo spiritual person. And she's like, I think something imprinted in you where you're like still trying to work that out. Go figure. And so anyway, I mean, that's probably not the answer you were expecting, but I just have always had this like weird fear / fascination with the power that a car can have. And, once I landed on the end of the pilot, which is obviously that Judy was driving the car that hit Jen's husband, it started a motif that we've just kind of, gone with the show. And, I think you sort of see it culminate in season 2.
I want to ask you about the power of female friendship. I mean, we've seen it going back to Lucille Ball, and Vivian Vance, in I Love Lucy. Where are you taking it in this that we haven't seen before?
I mean, I think, all I'm trying to do with the female friendship in Dead to Me is have it feel authentic and have it express and reflect the power of the friendships that I've had in my life. And I've been incredibly lucky in that I have found a handful of ladies who I'm just simpatico with. And, the kind of banter that you see between those women is essentially like ripped off of the way in which that I speak with my friends. And one of my best friends, Kelly Hutchinson, is a writer on the show. And, pre-Zoom days, we would just sit in the room and we would riff back and forth. And I mean, essentially that is Jen and Judy. It is based off of a real deep, long-term friendship. And, I think that there is a power to female friendship and a sort of a special quality to it that you don't get from any other relationship. And I wanted to celebrate that. And it's, part of it is a shared experience. Part of it is just an empathic quality that women have with each other. And I wanted to sort of, I don't know, like paint a portrait of 2 friends who are unconditionally loving and supportive of each other. That's not to say that it's perfect. That's not to say that, that Jen doesn't act shitty and that Judy doesn't get passive aggressive. Like, those things exist in real life too. But at the core, these are two women who unconditionally love each other and want what's best for each other, and probably would be willing to sacrifice their own happiness for one another. And to me, that is the aspiration of a best friendship. And, I think
you give them secrets, because in season 1, it's Judy's secret.
Mm-hmm.
In season 2, now we have Christina's character secret.
Right.
I was curious for season 3, which hopefully you're getting in the middle of now.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you go with that?
Well, that's a good question. And, I think, I often say in the writer's room, like, secrets are our friends. It is, one of our sort of tried and true kind of motifs on the show. But I think that for me, yes, they have secrets, but there's always a good reason why they're keeping it from each other. It's never for a selfish reason. And if it is a selfish reason, that reason is they want to keep being friends with one another. So they're afraid, if I tell you this, that I will lose you, and I think that even wrapped up in the secrets and some of the lies is love, and is this desire to keep this closeness between each other. So I think you're going to continue to see some of that.
When you first started out, obviously you kind of have a Bible of your characters, and you say, these are these two women. This is where they're initially going to go. And with the success of the show, now we get to keep venturing further and further down the path. How much have they changed since your initial concept of who they were? As you, as a writer, get to know them, get to understand them, now they live and breathe, have certain aspects of them going, no, I don't, I knew we used to do this, but now I think they do this.
The short answer is no. They are who I set them out to be. I always knew that I wanted Judy to be basically like a walking, beating heart, because she's inspired by a friend of mine, and who very much was that kind of person. And for Jen, I based her off of an amalgamation of women, but once I keyed in while I was writing the pilot to her anger, I thought, here is the root of this character. She's angry, and she has every reason to be. And I think, if anything, we've only dug deeper into those qualities. We've dug deeper into Judy's codependency and deeper into Jen's rage. And, at first I had a little pushback about Jen being such an angry character. But what we found after the first season premiered is that that's sort of the aspect of her that most people really identified with, because you don't tend to see angry women on television. You don't tend to see unapologetic, rageful mothers, mothers are supposed to be sweet and calm and supportive and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, if anything, I think we've almost doubled down on the qualities that I gave them initially. And, with the advent of, incredibly talented writers and some new writers, season 2 to season 1, they bring with them their own thoughts and ideas about the characters. And, when they resonate with me, I know that it's right. So if anything, I think in season 2, we leaned into the fact that, that Jen is going to protect her family at all costs. And if that means, doing a lot of incredibly dark things, she's going to do that. But it is coming from a place of love. It is coming from a place of protection. It's just also a little bit murdery.
And I want to kind of break things down, since you're the source here. How long does it take to write each episode? I think there's 10 episodes per season. Mm-hmm. And how long does it take to film each of those episodes?
It takes, we shoot each episode in blocks. So episodes 1 and 2 will be shot together, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and so on. And we have, for season 2, we had 2 weeks to do 2 episodes. So it's an episode a week. It's a little harder to answer the how long does it take to write each episode, because each one is different. And, we spend a lot of time just carving out the story. The majority of time in the room is just figuring out, what is the grand arc of the story? What is each character's arc? what are, some of the plot points that we want to hit, and how do we justify those, with real, true emotion. And, that can mean that an episode can be written in a week, or that can, mean that we go back and keep working at it. So it's a little hard to answer, but this year we had 20 weeks in the writer's room to write the show. So that gives you a little bit of an idea.
And what's the status of season 3?
Well, we're waiting, to get into production, and right now it's a little bit of a wait and see, because we only want to go into production when it is safe, and when we can guarantee the least amount of risk possible for our actors who do have to go maskless. We're in such a weird time, and we do shoot in Los Angeles, which right now is a bit of a ground zero for this virus. So, we're ready to go. We're just, waiting for the right moment.
My last question, you started out doing stand-up, and, thank God success came your way. But I wanted to ask you, because I know you've done sitcoms and you've written for other shows, but writing for the Oscars, which we have coming up in April, how surreal was that? Was there a moment that you just kind of looked around the room and went, what am I doing?
Yes, great question. And I've written for the Oscars a handful of times, and I'm really lucky because those are some of my favorite gigs I've ever had. They're pretty short term, but boy, is the payoff huge, in terms of the experience. The first time I did it was when Ellen hosted for the first time, and it was, I think, 2007, I think it was. And I was a writer for her show. So, she and I were already, working together every day. And, when she called to say, will you come and write for the show? I literally remember exactly where I was, because I couldn't believe that this opportunity was falling into my lap. And I will never forget being backstage that night, because the head writer, I remember, we were standing there, and there's Steven Spielberg, Francis Ford Coppola, and Martin Scorsese are literally just like bing, bong, bing. And I think I was, I was 29 years old. I couldn't believe that I was I could probably reach out and touch them. And I just was in awe of the entire experience. And I remember the head writer of the Oscars came, and she put her arm around me, and she was like, I know this seems like a lot, but get used to it. And I thought that was such a nice thing for her to say. And it ended up sort of being true that I got to go back several more times and do it. But it really is like nothing else. Even just getting to be backstage, and I remember standing outside of Ellen's dressing room, and just the parade of actresses and actors walking by, because they get to go through the back entrance. I just was like, ah! I couldn't believe it. I got into this business because I love it, because I'm totally enamored of entertainment and of television and movies, and to get to, experience a night like that, from the inside is always an incredible gift. It's also a totally thankless job, because it's so hard. And, people are so critical of the hosts, and I don't even know if people realize that there are people backstage writing jokes on the spot and stuff, but I wouldn't trade those experiences for the world. And it was also just incredible to get to experience that with Ellen as she was hosting for the first time, because it was such a big deal for her, and she took it so seriously, and wanted to do such a good job. And I think she did. I think she was incredible. And both times, there's kind of no job like it in the business.
Well, congratulations on that. And Dead to Me, we're going to look forward to season 3.
Thank you so much.
Liz Feldman, this is Scott Orlin. Till next time.
Thanks, Scott.